Well, hey there, everybody. Sure has been a lot going on, huh? I'm not sure how you feel about the general state of things, but I know that there's plenty to worry about out there, and a lot of things to lasso our attention and rope them into issues. A lot of those issues that we get roped into, though, are really so far beyond our control that even bringing our awareness into them doesn't serve us. I there's nothing I can really do about starving children in Bangladesh or about even like the Capitol riots that happened so recently. There's nothing I can do about that now that these things are happening or have come to pass. There's simply not what I would say is within my karmic sphere. Right, my karmic sphere is the karma that I am directly related to, and that which I have the potential to affect in one way or another. And so those are the things that I generally advise that you put most of your effort into. And it's not that I am asking you to negate the suffering of the world, and I'm not. I have tried my best to accept the suffering of the world, and to understand that I can't go really out there and fix much anything until I've done some pretty good work on fixing myself. And that's something that is an ongoing process for each of us. And this process of becoming a better self and a better you is, in my opinion, what coming to this planet Earth is all about, right? It's not, to me, it's not about coming here and putting up as many points as you can with dollars and getting the things and just doing stuff. Because that really does not nourish the soul all that much, does it? I think that we've all seen people with enough stuff around them and still maintain a pretty steady sense of miserable. So each of us now in this time, I feel a lot of us, so many of us, are being called into a new direction, and that is scary, and it's uncertain. And I know that I've been compelled through growth over the last year that has been very uncomfortable in the process. But however, on the other side of it, it's like every one of these cycles of growth is another death to my ego and the control of my mind, and it sucks because those parts of me actually don't want to be drug into the fire and tossed in. However, as I've gone through more and more of that, I get a greater sense of my place and purpose in this world, and I have the ability to move through it with a different kind of grace. I know that all sounds fine and good to hear somebody say something like that, but the thing is that it is available to each of us in our own accord and our own willingness to show up and do what we got to do to be what we are meant to be. And so that takes me to a couple things that seems to have been weighing on the minds of some of the people that I've been talking to. And just by my nature, I draw a lot of people to and through my experience, which is to say that I got a lot of folks that I've spoke with and I speak with. And when I talk with folks, they have a tendency of showing me where it hurts, and when they show me where it hurts, to tell me about it, and it feels like to put questions inside of me that wait for answers to come along. I don't got answers for everything, that's for sure, and I never will. However, I can say that a couple issues that seem to be with the people pretty strong right now. One is overwhelming emotions, and the other thing is trying to move through life more harmoniously. So a lot of folks, we got taught that we kind of go out into life, and it's and we got to go and get what we got to get, and so and our society as it is got us so wound up. We live in this sort of a fight or flight response, right, where we are constantly on the run. And I was thinking the other day, How many people get scared out of bed in the morning even, right? Alarm goes off, and if they don't start hustling in 15 minutes or so, they're gonna be late to work. They're gonna have boss problems. They're gonna have work problems. They're gonna have all this, and if they lose their job, they're gonna have house problems, right? And so we all getting scared out of bed just about every morning to go and hustle in and through a world that doesn't entirely make all that much sense, and that can give certain questions about the return on our investment, right? Be that as it may, one of the solutions to that, is that we're going around and we're trying to fix problems that the mind made with the mind. And, that's sort of like trying to wash blood with blood, or like Einstein said, it's like, that the insanity cannot be solved from the level of, or the insanity cannot be solved from the level in which the insanity started, right? So we need to find ways of tuning in to ourselves, and that are genuine and in tune and compassionate and in keeping with the growth and evolutionary possibilities of ourself, right? In this planet and this species of mankind as a whole. That comes from slowing down. It comes from recognizing that we don't have all the parts in us yet that we're after. And that just because they haven't been shown doesn't mean they aren't coming next. Right? But if we're scared they ain't going to come, they might not show up. And so moving into a more receptive state and finding, even if it's just for a moment every day, where you can move into a greater pause, right? It's sort of like this. It's like there's prayer, which is actively soliciting from God, and then there's meditation, which is the receipt of that which you've been asking for. And when we move into those meditative states, we're moving into a state that's much more like the Tao, in a receptive and feminine way. And it's from that point of stillness that we can touch this kind of a void, and in that place rest within and hold that. And from there, that's where a lot of magic happens. It may be the source of all the magic, but the research is still out on that. But all things come from stillness, right? You can't imagine, it wasn't busy before it was busy, right? It wasn't happening before it happened. It wasn't now until after then. And so we move from stillness into life, and then in death we move back to stillness. And yet somehow we find stillness to be a fearful thing to us. Because when we sit still, we feel like our mind gets to come out and start beating us up, right? And that may feel true. It may even be true to some extent or another. But all those bits of mind that come up, that feel like they're beating you up, are just things that you haven't had the opportunity or the courage or the stillness to move with and through until they could wash over you like a wave of the ocean, right? And after those things crest and break over you and move through you, you'll find that you're much freer from them than if you just kept trying to keep them at an arm's length. So to address that, we're going to start getting back into some meditation. We're going to start reaching back towards our stillness and our divine power that dwells within that, right? Because we don't have all of the ideas and information and architecture that we need to just build our way out of this situation. But I think that God does give us the grace to feel our way through every situation. I kind of get a note of that with a friend of mine. He's blind, right? He's been blind since he's 13 and he's in his 50s. The other day I pulled up to his house and tried calling him. He wasn't there, right? And then I see him come around the corner with his shopping bag and his blind cane, and he's just going down the road, and he's making his way down the sidewalk pretty good. And then he gets his stick tangled up in a bush, right? And I'm watching this man, and he's literally feeling his way through life. I could not imagine not being terrified to be a blind person and leave the house with people running around everywhere and cars. And am I on the sidewalk or am I not on the sidewalk, right? Well, somehow this man just fearlessly goes into that which he cannot see to go and get what he needs, right? And I think that there's part of us that is like that, right? We know that we're just feeling our way through all of this. And each of us on the edge of our growth and consciousness is pushing into a darkness that we don't know. And pushing into the darkness that stinks, right? It does at first. I'm excited to return and push into new areas that I don't know and to continually show up and offer my discomfort and my fears on an altar of faith, right? And these things have a way of slowly burning themselves out and burning through so that we can show up a little bit more. And so that we can see more of ourselves. Because that's all this big process is, right? Is we showed up on this planet and we were formed and domesticated by a system that's not working, right? And so the ideas that are within us are from the same thing that ain't working right. Large part of them are like that, right? So we got our heads full of the problem, but our hearts are full of the solution. And that's the thing that scares us, right? And so that's the other thing is a bunch of folks been talking about how they just got emotions tangled up inside them. And a lot of these feelings don't seem like theirs at all. And that's true. There's feelings and thoughts and emotions and bandwidths of consciousness just washing across this planet. And they hit us in the head. And all of a sudden we're having that kind of day, right? I get on my phone, talk to 3 people, and everybody wants to go back to bed, right? Same kind of day everybody's having, different people. They don't even know each other, right? They all want to go back to bed. I went back to bed, right? And so we kind of get washed around in this sauce of energy that is collective. Meanwhile, we're navigating our own energy within that. And then if you're an empath and you go and you encounter somebody else and they're having a strong emotional situation, they're going to broadcast that onto you. And if you're not aware, you might think their feelings are your feelings too. So now you got 3 sets of feelings coming in. You got the outer feelings of the collective, and then you got your own emotional stuff too. And then number 3, you got whatever somebody else is bringing and dropping off on your table. That's another thing we're going to learn about. We're going to learn about emotional intelligence, and we're going to learn about energy practices and energy hygiene so that you can start taking care of your little light bubble yourself, right? Because holding yourself and recognizing the parts that are you and aren't you are a little more complicated than we first let out, right? I mean, when you think you're just a body, it's pretty easy to figure out anything that's not this body ain't the body, right? Well, it turns out it's a little bit more complicated than that. And by complicated, I mean simpler in a way, because it's all part of the same oneness of all the stuff, right? So you can convince yourself and maintain your conviction that you're just a skin bag, animated by life and a soul, and you're going to run around in that until you kick the bucket and then it's done. Or you can align yourself with a truth that has been handed down through all times, basically, right? All the great old guys and gals, they've been essentially teaching the same thing of coming back to oneself and knowing thyself. And if you can't know yourself, your efficacy in this world is going to be less. And if you don't know yourself, your actions in this world are more likely to cause additional harm and unnecessary outcomes, right? Your actions should really incur the least amount of karma possible, which means, as my friend Jenny would say, checking your wake, right? As we're pushing into life and pushing into consciousness, the way that we go about it determines that which is behind us as well, right? That which we leave behind. And there's times I've left a really nasty wake behind me and hurt a lot of people. I've done that more than once. And I'm sorry for those lessons. And I'm grateful for them too, right? I'm sorry it hurt others, and I'm grateful that I learned, so hopefully I don't have to keep hurting people like that. And I can live gently and kindly with harmony in this world, and at the same time be an effective person that can bring about change. And that seems like a lot, right? But we can all do that. And it starts by moving into that stillness, right? And just take a few breaks, in a day. And just remember, you're all right, Even if you got things coming in that got to get done, and in that moment, you can be just fine, right? We're going to talk more about all this, and I appreciate you tuning in, and more on everything later. And you just keep your chin up. And there's great love for you out there in this world, and I hope you see something beautiful today.